Hello. The book I'm going to read is called Twig. This was a book that our 4th grade teacher read us when I was in school. So here is the first page. It was a Saturday morning in the summer, and a little girl named Twig stood on the back porch, which belonged to the 4th floor of a high sort of house in the city. That is where she lived, with her mama and papa. Her papa drove a yellow taxi. Twig stood leaning against the porch's wooden railing with her chin pressed on top of it. She had a piece of red ribbon from last Christmas tied on her hair to keep it back. She had a piece of grocery string tied round a pin to fasten her dress instead of buttons. She was looking down into the backyard. The backyard was her own little world. It was a square little world, bound by houses on a tree of its sides and by a fence on its other. Outside the fence was an alley. Inside was a garbage can. Out in the alley stood an old boy. The ice wagon horse sounded asleep as usual. He had worked all his life, poor old boy. He was very tired. He slept while he was standing up, or while he was walking along. Also, he was very dusty, and it made him sneeze. He would sneeze out in the valley. Sneezing usually woke him up, but as soon as he woke up, he went to sleep again. Old Boy, the ice wagon horse, belonged to Twig's little world, but he wasn't much company. On top of the garbage can sat an old girl cat. She always sat there. She belonged to Twig's world too. She had 5 or 6 colors of fur and 5 or 6 colors of whiskers. She had a little motor inside her. When she felt... I just lost my place. Where'd you go? When she felt happy, she was supposed to turn her little motor on. When she didn't feel happy anymore, it was supposed to turn off. But most of the time, she just felt like running it for no reason at all. While she sat on the garbage can, the Twig's papa would leave the motor in the taxi running while he sat waiting for a fare. Also, old girls could sing. She surely could. Almost every night she gave a concert. During the day she just sat. Old girl the cat wasn't much company either. At the back of the house was a drain pipe. Halfway up the drain pipe had an elbow. In the drain pipe's elbow was a sparrow's nest. Twig had helped to build it. She had given the sparrows straw out of her mama's broom, and a shoelace out of one of her mama's shoes, and some pieces of grocery string, and a part of an old spring out of an old sofa where her papa took his snoozes on Saturday afternoons. Oh, Twig had given the sparrows a good many things. The sparrows belonged to her world too. Miss Sparrow was a busy little body who had her troubles. She had them with Sparrow. Sparrow was a gay bird. The nest was too quiet for him. He was gone most of the time. Poor little Miss Sparrow was always having to go after him and bring him home. But every time she brought him, he went away again. The sparrows weren't very much company either. Down in the backyard, no grass grew, but the dandelion stood there by itself, and it had long leaves that were bent over like the branches on a tiny tree. It had a tall stalk. On top of the stalk, it was a little round, just a plain ordinary round bud, but beside of it was a beautiful flower. Someday, maybe today, a little bud would open up and let the flower show. Twig could see a dandelion from where she stood. It looked very green away down there against the bare ground. Along the ground near the dandelion ran a little stream of drainpipe water. The drain pipe had a leak. Drip, drip, drip. It went most of the time. Twig had dug a little path way with a stick for the drain pipe to run. That made a little stream. Twig could see it now from where she stood. It looked no wider than a piece of grocery string way down there on the ground. Next to the dandelion, not far from the stream, stood an empty tomato can upside down. Twig had found it yesterday out in the alley. Somebody had thrown it away. There were pictures of bright red tomatoes all around it. There was a place at the side of where somebody's can opener had made a mistake. When it was upside down, it looked like a little house with the can opener's mistake for its door. It just looked the right size for a fairy. Twig had washed it and cleaned it with drainpipe water. She stood it up just so, upside down next to the dandelion, not far away from the stream, and there it had been ever since yesterday. I'm going to stop there and we'll read more tomorrow.